Good morning, bonjour, buenos dias, ni hao, sin chao, what's up? It's me, Mr. Jordan. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 43 of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. We'll do a summary and then after that we'll follow up with analysis. If you've never been to my channel before, I do literary analysis, study tips, and other helpful and useful videos for students or anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about literature and the English language. Without further ado, let's get right into the summary of chapter 42 of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. So in this chapter, the events are building to a climax. We're almost right there at the peak of the book. And in the last chapter, Offred, the handmaid, who's our narrator, has been brought to the salvaging in what was once the yard or square in front of Harvard Library. And she's witnessed two women be hung there. And that's what the salvaging is. It's a spectacle, a public execution. And in this chapter, she now participates in what they call a participation, I don't know. Atwood's made the word up. Essentially what it means is that everyone gets invited in to participate in another form of execution. So instead of just being an audience member, you now get to run on down and help kill someone. Truly nasty stuff here, but as Atwood has said of this book before, nothing is made up. So everything is borrowed from history, from some sort of reference to history. And we do know that throughout history, there have certainly been states and monotheistic cultures where people participated in the execution of lawbreakers or rule breakers. Think of a witch trial or a burning or lynching, something horrible and nasty along those lines. Quote, "This man," says Aunt Lydia, "has been convicted of rape." Her voice trembles with rage and a kind of triumph. "He was once a guardian," she says. "He has disgraced his uniform. He has abused his position of trust. His partner in viciousness has already been shot. The penalty for rape, as you know, is death." Deuteronomy 22, 23, 29. "I might add that this crime involved two of you and took place at gunpoint. It was also brutal. I will not offend your ears with any details, except to say that one woman was pregnant and the baby died." Whoa, the hypocrisy. Didn't watch the last chapter, watch the video on that. But in the last chapter, Aunt Lydia tells them she's not going to talk about the crimes committed because that could give bad ideas and create copycat crimes and a rash of terrible actions. But here, where she's trying to scare the handmaids, where she wants to instill fear in them, she gives a detailed play-by-play of all the nasty crimes that this man has supposedly committed. So she's riling up the crowd here. She wants to get these handmaids frothing at the bit, as they say, or chomping at the bit. There's an idiom for you. And essentially, she's trying to curdle their blood, right? Like a horror movie that pokes at your worst fears. And after they've made those worst fears real, they give them something palpable and tactile, another human, to take out their fear and anxiety and anger on, right? There's this guy tied up there to be beaten, killed, attacked, stoned to death, and the crowd has been incensed by the fury of what they're afraid to hear, the crime he supposedly committed. In the second quote here, we get to actually witness the event where the handmaids participate in the sort of beating or stoning to death of this man. His punishment comes at their hands. So not only are they now being the vessels of sort of the state progeny or the womb that carries the children of the state, they're also now being asked to participate in an execution, and therefore they become the fist or the violence of the state as well. So it's very much a two-sided thing here. They're being used on both ends. Quote, "There's a surge forward, like a crowd at a rock concert in the former time, when the doors open, their urgency coming like a wave through us. The air is bright with adrenaline. We're permitted anything, and this is freedom. In my body also, I'm reeling, red spreads everywhere, but before the tide of cloth and bodies hits him, of Glen is shoving through the women in front of us, propelling herself with her elbows, left, right, and running towards him. She pushes him down sideways, then kicks his head viciously. So we see a couple of things here. One, that this is a huge release for these women and for the book. We're right at the top of the climax here. Our story arc has hit its point. We're at the epitome. And the violence they get to enact is a form of release. She tells us explicitly, this is freedom to us. They're finally allowed to do something. They're kept pent up in their rooms, cages essentially, all day with nothing. And now finally they're allowed some emotion, some physicality, and it's to execute someone or kill someone for the stake. So they're really, really deeply being manipulated here on a lot of different levels. This is also an example of Atwood at her finest. She's manipulating us, the reader, right? She's playing with our expectations. And Glenn, who's participating in the rebellion and is part of the Mayday Underground, she's the first one in there, throwing punches and kicks. Atwood, of course, the master storyteller, knows that this is like the height of tension, suspension, and then release. We've wanted this for so long. We're getting to witness our narrator and the lowest rungs of the social order get their punches in, get their hands into someone. Finally, our third quote from chapter 42 of The Handmaid's Tale. We're going to look at Offred's reaction after she's just seen Glenn participate in this nasty and brutal killing of the man supposedly convicted of rape. And essentially, Offred, constantly unable to act, right? Like, that is, if she has a fatal character flaw, hers, she's unable to follow through. She's completely indifferent. She flip-flops constantly in fear of future possibilities, her anxiety, and unable to move on from the past, her memories and nostalgia, which keep her permanently depressed. So she's in that nasty balance between anxiety in the future and depression in the past. And so she's now judging Glenn, her one sort of co-conspirator, for actually participating. I saw what you did today, I said to her. Now I'm beginning to feel sick again. Shock, outrage, nausea, barbarism. Why did you do that? You. I thought you. Don't look at me, she says. They're watching. I don't care, I say. My voice is rising. I can't help it. Get control of yourself, she says. She pretends to brush me off, my arm and shoulder, bringing her face close to my ear. Don't be stupid. He wasn't a rapist at all. He was political. He was one of ours. I knocked him out, put him out of his misery. Don't you know what they're doing to him? One of ours, I think? A guardian? It seems impossible. Again, twice in this chapter, Atwood has completely flipped and reversed our expectations of who is doing what, who is acting, who is saying, who's lying, who's telling the truth. This is almost like a classic thriller or spy novel, right? Everyone's a double agent. We don't know who's on whose sides, and we're placed in the footsteps of the mind of our narrator, Offred, whose head really at this point is just spinning in circles. She's completely lost, has not had anyone she can trust or believe in, and essentially this is her downfall. We're now seeing her unravel and unwind. All of the character motivations here are nuanced and layered. It's impossible to know, right? Like the whole ancient quote, know thyself, know thy neighbor. Well, everything you think you know is wrong in this world. Everything in Gilead that looks light is dark, and vice versa. Thanks so much for watching. That was chapter 43, Summary and Analysis of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. If you liked the video, sub to my channel for more literary analysis and help with English, literature, and language, text, study tips, exam, anything else you want to see, just put it in the comments. Take care.